In this video, we'll create slide out mobile menus and make it easy. I'm talking about no code, no extra plugins, and no pop-ups. And I say no pop-ups because my most watched Elementor video has been on pop-up menus. And that's only because Elementor gave us no options in the past to really create our mobile menus until now. With the new off-canvas menu widget, we're able to have full creativity, design our mobile menus the way that we like, and most importantly, make it easy and SEO friendly. Let me show you how to do this. To get started, go over to your Elementor settings, over to your features, and then make sure you have your nested elements active and your menu is active. Next up, go over to your theme builder and then go to your header and add a new header template. I already have one created to get things started quicker. Let me close this up. And now next I am going to add in a container. I'm going to take the style from my top menu here. Let me just copy this so that way I could give it the same exact padding as my menu. And then inside here, this is where we're going to drop in our off-canvas widget. Go up over here, search for off-canvas, and this is what we're looking for. Drop that in here. And you can see right off the bat, it gets started and we can see our starter template. And from here, let's walk through our settings. First, you could give it any name you want. I'm going to call this off-canvas menu. That way I could identify it, give it a cool name, have fun. We could change our positioning to center and then all the way to right. Personally, I like it on the right, but this is all about preference. Either make it left or right. I never would leave it on the center. That's just weird. We want to make sure that these are very usable and that people are, they're used to using mobile menus in a certain way. Next, we have our vertical positioning. If we were to give it, say, a custom height, well, we could then position it in different locations. I would just keep it at the start or just turn it off. It's pretty good where it's at to begin with. Let me remove this. Now we have our width. We could control how much we want to slide out. I think a good starting point is going to be 500 pixels, but we could always come back and adjust it. And then personally, I would change this over to rem. This is going to be for better practices. You could always use a converter like this to find out the rem. I'm just going to follow all best practices inside this tutorial so that way we could all learn how to do this the right way. Next up, we have our custom height, and we could use the VH, the viewport height, and we could control how much of this we want to fill up the screen. Say if you put 50, this is going to take 50% of the screen. 100% or 100 VH is pretty much the best practice to go, easiest way, but you could also choose to select fit to content, which means that whatever you drop inside here for your menu, it's only going to fit to that. And if you go to the Lightbox Academy site, I am opting for that style right now. So it's, again, total design choice and preference for you. I am going to go back to custom though to 100 VH. Next up, we have our settings. The first one, prevent closing on overlay, and then the next one, prevent closing on escape overlay. I will leave these both off. These just offer better usability. That way, when somebody clicks on the overlay here or hits the escape key, they could close the menu. We want to make it easy to use, so just leave those as it is. The disable page scrolling, this is completely optional. I will leave it off, but if you do want to stop people from scrolling while the menu is on, you could turn this on. Now, this is a really important one for SEO. We are either going to leave it on div or nav, and this is going to depend on how we build our menu inside here. Now, these other tags here, main, article, header, footer, section aside, I wish Elementor did not put this inside here because all of these are super bad for SEO to use inside of your slide out menu. So do not select any of those, and I'll let you know inside this video when to use div or when to use nav. Next up, I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to change this up. I am going to change it to the right because I know I got my head right down over here. So to make it easy, I'll put this to the right. Next, let's go over to our style. We could choose the border radius. I mean, if your style, you want to add it, this actually could look kind of cool when it is done right. It's totally up to you, 100% a design choice. Right here though, the box shadow, this is something I would use because it does give some depth. Just do it very slightly. Next up, the overlay. Let's set this, and then you're going to see that box shadow showing a bit more. So for the overlay, we could use gradient or we could use classic. You could also turn it off or on. I would turn it on, but I would also make it a bit more subtle. I do like people to see the content behind it because it just gives a better user experience. And I do want to set my own brand color. So I'll choose my darker color for my brand styles. I'll take this all the way down. Let me change it to RGBA so I could see my opacity. And I'll take this to about 15 to 20% that we could see right here. And if you want to see how that works, just go back over to your content and you could turn off editing mode. And then you can see how we got a bit of that overlay and that box shadow. I do want to set up one more thing here in my settings, and this is going to be for my slide in animation. For animations, there's only two of them that I would use. It would either be fade in or it would be slide in. I wouldn't use any of these other rotating, zooming in. Those are all old, outdated styles. They look very, very cheesy. I would avoid them altogether. I think the fade in or slide in though, you could get away with. Now, because this is on the left, we are going to choose fade in left. And then on the exit, we're going to choose fade out left. Now, if it's on the right, then you would do fade in, fade out right, and same thing for the slide. Now, if we go back here, open and close our editing mode, we can see how it works. But by default, that's super slow. Again, looks kind of cheesy. So I'm going to speed this up. Let's take this to about 0.5 seconds. Give that a try. And now what you would do is just test it out. See how it looks until you get your desired look and feel. Next, let's get started building our menus in here. First thing we want to do is add a background to our panel that's sliding out and add some padding. To do the background, I'm going to go back over here to style, to classic, and then choose the color that I want. I'm going to choose this beige color, but if you want to like a dark slide out, you could choose whatever you want. This is the good thing about this is we have total freedom. The next thing is to add some padding. Now, let's go ahead and pull out our structure panel because this is going to help us to go back and forth between our off canvas and our container. Now, notice one thing when we do click on our container, we cannot delete it, we cannot copy it, we can't paste it. This is built in and you can't remove it because this container is special just for the off canvas widget. Now, from here, I am going to go to my container, to my advanced, and add my padding in here. I go with rem for just about all padding nowadays. Use your preferred method. I am going to take this down to a 1.5 on the sides, and then on the top and bottom you want to give a very healthy padding, and then we'll come back and adjust those later once we add in all of our items. There are a few different methods for adding our menus. The first one is going to be our WordPress menu widget. This is going to be best for SEO. That is though only if you don't have a drop down. If you have a drop down, it won't work that well. And let me show you. First, let's go here and change our layout to vertical. From here, I'll remove the underline and let's go ahead and just style all this up right. Take away the breakpoints. Let's go over here to style, set up our typography. I usually like to make my fonts a little bit big on the mobile menu. It just makes it easier to use. Things tend to get smaller on phones. And right now out the box, I have to teach this because there are some bad practices and some really bad paddings set in by default. And I feel like I would be doing a disservice to not teach and show this. All right, take a look at the pink box. This pink box should be hugging your content, but you have this default padding on the top, bottom, and on the left. This is going to break layouts. I really wish this wasn't here, but I want to show you this. That way you could fix it and design your menus correctly. Let's go ahead and take our vertical padding to 0 and our horizontal padding to 0. Now we have that pink box hugging everything. This way, if you add more content down here like a button, it's going to be aligned and not looking off. We are going to control this with the space in between. I'll take this to about 20 pixels, but you could also convert this to rem, which would be about 1.5. That's actually 24 pixels, but that's okay. It's looking good right now. So this method right here would work great. The only problem is when you do the drop down, it's kind of hard to see. Let me move this structure out the way. You can see it right here on the right. I don't get it. I don't know why this works like this. I've spent an hour before this video like just scratching my head like I can't believe it still works this way, but it does. So if you have a drop down, I would not use this method until Elementor gives us a fix. This menu right here is going to come from our backend over here, from when we set up our menus inside the backend of WordPress. So if I were to remove this, let's save that. Now this menu will look really good. You know, we could do more things to it. Like we could add in a button for like a big call to action down here. Let me just put in call to action. And then put in our link to wherever it's going to go, most likely a contact page. Let's go ahead and style this up. Make it full width so it stretches all the way out. I could go back over here and I could add some padding to the bottom. Let me switch this to rem, unlock. And now we're getting a better menu already, and we can start adding more things to it. This is where we have more flexibility. You could even add things like, you know, social icons. Maybe you have a login page. We could add in an additional login. We have more control. You might want to put a logo in it. It's totally your choice. You have that creative freedom. Now, with this method here, because we are using the WordPress menu widget, this is already SEO optimized. It already has all of the proper HTML tags for SEO, which includes the nav tag. This means if we go back to our off canvas, to our settings, we will leave this as a div, not the nav, because there's already a nav widget in here. We don't need to double nav it up. This would be the proper way for SEO. Now let's say we try a different method. For this, we'll add in an icon list. This is going to be a second way of doing it. It is not as good as SEO as this, but it's also not as bad. In fact, let me move this over. I don't want to lose that work that I did because we'll use it in a moment. Let's go over here. Let's delete these. I am going to remove this icon. And then we could put in our items here, and we have, you know, full control over what we do. Just make sure you put in your URLs inside of the link. Let's add in a few more. Let's say about us, add in a link, and I'll add in just a few more. Next up, we could style it up the same as we did for the other ones. And then we got a menu using the icon list. This works great when you want to be more customizable and more flexible with your menu and not have to manage it directly in the back of WordPress. But if you are going to use this method here, let's go back to our off canvas, to our settings. Now, in this case, we would want to use nav because the icon list does not have a nav tag. And that nav tag, what it does, it lets Google know, hey, this is our navigation, this is our menu. So Google knows how to index your site better. I probably should have said that a lot earlier. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move this over as well, because there's just a couple more things to take a look at. Then I'll show you the final bits, which is basically adding our open and close. Let's take a look at our menu widgets. So we have our menu, which is really our mega menu. Unfortunately, this will not work at this time inside of our off canvas. Hopefully this changes inside of the near future, because if we go in over here, we look at our item layout, we only got horizontal and drop down. We don't have the vertical option. Not like if we were to use our WordPress menu widget right here, we have the option for vertical. So if Elementor were to change that and to give us a vertical option that we could use inside of the off canvas, this will make it a lot easier and better for building our drop downs that we would use. But I'm going to show you a workaround for right now. Not the best for SEO, but it is a workaround. Let's go ahead and I'm going to bring this icon list back inside here. And let's say this resources, let's say we want to make that a drop down. What we could do, now this is just a hack, by the way, okay, it's not the best workaround, but it will work for right now. We could put in an accordion widget and use the nested elements inside of the accordion. Let me remove these two. We'll just keep one element. Let's go ahead and put resources. And then let's style it up to match these up here. First, the icon position, we want to put it at the end. And then let's go over here to our style. Again, we have this default padding we need to get rid of. So for that, we'll go over here to our padding. Let's put it at 0. And then let's go over to our border. Turn these borders off, just select on none. Next, let's go over to our header. Let's also select the same exact style as these so it all matches, and same color, same hover. Don't forget to do all of that. Next up, let's go over to our content. Let's also turn off this border as well because we want it to blend in. And then from here, we could drop in whatever we want. I'm just going to copy and paste this and show you could put in an additional menu right inside here. Now we could just go back over here to our content, actually our accordion, and then we're going to do distance from, so we could create some distance. I would change this though to rem. It would be 1.5. Maybe go in over here and give it a bit of padding on the left. Let me change this again to rem and unlock that. Okay, just a little bit, maybe 1.5. And this shows just a bit of the hierarchy. Let's go back over here to our padding. We had that initial padding down here. Let's remove it. Let's also remove the padding over here because we want to keep all these the same space. We want it to look like it is just one menu set. Now I did use 24 pixels or 1.5 rem to space out my menu items. And then right here in between these two sections, which is going to be the gap, I also have this at 1.5 rem. So do your math on this and make sure your spacing is equal all the way around. And now we have a drop down, and you could go back over here to your accordion. You could adjust it all. First, I will leave the title HTML tag at a div. Do not use any of these H tags at all when you are using it this way. In the interactions, I will make this a bit faster. Let's go ahead and change it to 0.5. Let's see how that looks. That is too slow. Again, too slow. Okay. You do want it to be a little bit smooth, but not slow because that looks pretty old. So we are looking pretty good right here. Now, next up, we need to make this open and close. The way to do this is we need to add some SVG icons. Let's go ahead and go back to our off canvas. I want to close this while we style it up. Next, I am going to add an icon up here inside my top menu, and I'm going to add another icon in my off canvas. The one in my menu is going to be my open. So let's go over here to our elements, just search for icon. I'm going to grab this, I'm going to put it all the way over. If it gets a little hard to use, just use your structure panel. Now from right here, you could do one of two things. You could either use the icon library, type in bars, let me see, bars, and you could use something like this. I personally like to add my own icon, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I already added some before. I like to create and export and use my SVGs. Let's go style this up really quick. We're going to leave this on pixel. And right now, everything looks a little messed up here, but don't worry, we're going to fix that in a moment. All right, next, this is how we get our pop-ups to work. We're going to go over to link to our dynamic tag, and then we are going to search for our actions and then select off canvas. From here, click on off canvas and choose your action. By default, it is on open off canvas, so just leave it right there and then select your widget. Here is the one that we just created. Now, if we were to go in the front end and click it, you can see it now opens and closes. Next, let me delete this. We don't need this anymore. I'm gonna go back over here to my off canvas. Let's turn on editing mode and let's add in another icon widget. Let's go up here, search icon, and drop it in at the top. From here, you could either go to your icon library, search for an X, or you could upload your own. Let me use the one that I've already uploaded. Let's go over here. Let me just quickly style it up. We want this to be easy to use, easy for the person to see and tap on. That is important. So don't make it too small or too hard to see. From here, we could choose our position. I'm going to move it away from the content. And now let's go ahead and set this to close. I'm going to go back over here to link, dynamic tags, and do the same exact thing that we did on the opening icon. Select on off canvas, click on off canvas, and then on the action, select close off canvas, select your widget. Now this is set up so we could open it here and we could close it here. And now all that you would do is go ahead and style this up to the way that you like. Go ahead and position it wherever you want. And most importantly, when you are styling these up and you are creating your mobile menu, you're going to want to make sure you have your phone close by. You're going to want to check it out on your phone, because no matter how much we make it look good on our desktop when we are building, it always has a little bit of a difference in the phone, especially when it comes to sizes. So let your mobile device guide you while you are finalizing this. And now here are the final steps. We want this to show only on tablet view, maybe on mobile. That's totally your choice. But for this, we're only going to show it in tablet. So let's go to our icon. We are going to hide this on desktop so it doesn't show. Now it'll still show back here, but don't worry about that. It'll look better in the front end. The next thing is we want to move our off canvas over here as well. I only added it here inside this top bar so we had space to work and we could get a good visual. But if we keep it in here, we're going to have some default spacing. So to prevent that, let's remove it. Delete that container. Now for these, let's go ahead and change this now to tablet so we get more of a visual. We want to hide these two elements, as call to action button and menu, inside of tablet and mobile. So I'm going to go to responsive, hide on tablet, hide on mobile. We'll do the same for the menu, hide on both. Let's go ahead and publish this. And everything looks okay for a regular desktop menu. Now let's go ahead and shrink this to see how it'll work for responsiveness. And there we go. We got our break right there. You can see no spacing issues, nothing. And when we click on it, we have a nice slide out mobile menu. And the best thing about this is you could style this up any way that you like. Now, I know this is a little bit longer than what I intended, but I want to show best practices, especially for SEO and for design, so that way you can learn how to do this correctly. And now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about the off-canvas menu widget? Have you given it a try yet? Let us know inside of the comments. And coming up next, I got the mega tutorial on mega menus, which is going to pair perfectly with this tutorial. So don't forget that good YouTube stuff. Like and subscribe so you can get notified when the next one drops. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you inside the next one.